Hello, welcome to Smooth Sands Monotony. I am your host Ryan, and today I'm speaking with Amber in relation to frontotemporal. Oh man, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to leave this to you to explain it because the whole phrasing it all together messes me up a little bit.
Well, and you're not the only one. I was on TV a few years ago after Bruce Willis was diagnosed, and the television announcers kept mispronouncing it. But the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration pronounces it frontotemporal. And they are, as I said, the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration because they want to cover all forms of dementia that affects the frontotemporal lobes. The most common is referred to as frontotemporal dementia. And as I said, it is the dementia that Bruce Willis was diagnosed with a few years ago.
Which is one of the most visible exposures that most people recognize. Yeah.
For sure.
So can you kind of tell me how you got involved with this and, kind of how this has affected your life in that process?
Yeah, well, like most people, it's because I have a personal connection, unfortunately. My father was diagnosed with a frontotemporal dementia in 2008. He had been experiencing some symptoms looking back for several years. He retired a little earlier than what he had always said he would, and it was due to issues with work. Just wasn't able to do his job. He was a systems analyst for a major hospital and was in charge of their payroll. So his job was very important and needed to get done. So there were difficulties there. His coworkers definitely realized the deficiencies well before my family did. My mom knew something was going on because his personality had changed drastically, which is generally one of the first signs with frontotemporal dementia. It's not really memory dementia. It can affect your memory in later stages, but Dad knew who we were until the very end. He actually lived with FTD for 13 years, which is a long time. He passed away, he was diagnosed in January of 2008, and he passed away in March of 2021. I gave myself a year to grieve after he passed, and then I got involved directly with the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration, which is a national organization that Emma Willis is involved with, and she coordinated the announcement of Bruce's diagnosis with them. I became a certified support group facilitator, and for the last 2.5 years, I've been doing a monthly support group. I live about 3.5 hours away from where I do the support group, but the need was so great. There are only two certified volunteers that are active in my state, and the need was great. We had more than 30 people who needed assistance, and so I started going up and doing the support group, and it's grown, and we've got virtual members, in-person members, and all in all, there are probably about between 30 and 40 people who I'm in pretty regular contact with who are caregivers of those living with frontotemporal dementia. I'm also friends now with a few people that are currently living with FTD, and really do try to support both the caregivers and those living with FTD.
Very good. And for advice for somebody who, I mean, there's actually probably like multiple stages of this, but probably let's start with the beginning. Like, what would be some advice that you would give to a caregiver who has somebody that they know or are related to that is just diagnosed and now dealing with,
right?
Because there's like a reckoning with that where you kind of
for sure, and some people who are diagnosed are very aware. Dad knew that he was diagnosed with, he he called it Pick's disease, which is kind of an outdated term that his neurologist used. And this was, more than 10 years ago. So getting close to 20 years ago. Goodness, hard to believe. But that was the term his neurologist used. So he was able to tell people, and he knew that there was something going on. But the crazy thing about FTD is that no cases are the same. Like with Alzheimer's and with other types of dementia, and different other chronic or terminal diseases, there are stages where you can say, okay, we're at this stage, we're at that stage, and we have, this much further to go. With FTD, that really isn't the case. And as I said, it's not really a memory dementia. A lot of times, the things that you may notice most are personality changes, forgetting words, people not talking as much as they used to, becoming very, very quiet. I think that Bruce Willis, from what we know and what his family has shared, he definitely has that symptom of aphasia where he's no longer able to speak. The last probably 5 years of Dad's life, he was very, very limited on what he could say. And the last 3 years, he really didn't talk much at all.
In relation to, for probably understanding, is it necessarily that there's a lack of comprehension, or just a lack of communication, or a combination of both?
It's probably both. With my dad in particular, he seemed very aware until the very end of what was going on. Knew me, knew my mom, knew his hospice care workers who had been caring for him for about a year and a half, between a year and a half and 2 years. He was on hospice care. Started out with 1 day a week visits that ended up becoming 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday, his hospice workers came to help take care of him, and they were a godsend. So it just really, really depends on the person. Some people, just depending on what part of their frontotemporal lobes are affected, may lose memory. Others may have drastic personality changes. Unfortunately, there are cases of people being diagnosed who get in trouble with law enforcement, for breaking the law, or doing things that they never would have done had they, not been affected with this disease. So there are people at UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham, that are working with local law enforcement officials to get the word out and develop programs that will hopefully at some point be made available nationally to help, because often cases, people with FTD, seem normal. They're not lost. They're not, having any difficulties communicating a lot of times right at first. It's just, they've been in a wreck and they don't care. They've, had a hit and run, or they've cut someone off, or, they haven't stopped when the police tried to stop them. So education is really important too. And so that's why, those of us that are volunteering, and then the ones that are doing the hard work, the research, and the work, at universities, at healthcare centers, are really, trying to do what we can to make a difference.
Very good. Very good. As far as like the being a caregiver, like what recommend, I would assume that the compassion is probably the primary thing that would be involved. But once you get beyond that, like what are the things that you would advise for somebody who's in a caregiving situation to not just kind of keep care of the person that they're assisting with, but also keep their own kind of sanity and their own well-being going? Because it's trying on both ends.
Right. And you're exactly right. And that really, first and foremost, you have to take care of yourself. And I know from being in the middle of it, that's not always the easiest thing to do. We neglect ourselves. When Dad was kind of entering in his final stages, my husband was also diagnosed with cancer. And he went through a very brutal protocol, very curable cancer, but very, very brutal treatments. So I was kind of dealing with that, and I had my own health concerns at the time. So like 2017 and 2018 in particular were really, really rough personally. But you do have to take care of yourself. You also have to give yourself grace. Most of the time in these cases, this is someone you've loved, for a long time. And whether you're a spouse or a son or daughter, it's going to be extremely difficult. This is someone, that has, in some cases taken care of you, and now the tables have turned and you're taking care of them. And this is true, for not just FTD, but so many diseases, and whether they're just require a lot of care, hopefully temporarily, or if they are terminal, you really do have to give yourself grace, give yourself, be as kind to yourself as you would be to anyone else. And for those that are really wondering, how can I support my friend or my loved one who is dealing with this? It's not easy, and it is very, very isolating, because so often friends and even family members don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And oftentimes they're grieving too. So it's just a really, really hard situation for everyone involved. And really, the best advice I can give is just really, if you are a friend or family member of someone who is, really taking on a heavy duty, long term caregiver role, is just to let your friend or family member know that you love them, that you're there, that you don't understand, but you do think about them. And if there's anything that they ever need, that you're there. And sometimes even just saying, I don't care if your house is a mess. I don't care, if you don't feel like getting dressed. I'm coming over. I'm bringing, our favorite food. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to
force your way into their existence.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And just, more than anything, just letting people know. And that's the other thing with FTD. People are diagnosed with it very, very young. I know of someone that was in our group. Her husband was diagnosed in his 30s.
Wow.
So, it can happen with people that you would not be expecting to be diagnosed, and, very, very healthy people. My father was in wonderful shape, and really until the last 3 or 4 years when he started having movement problems that were related to the FTD, his body was in great shape. And, I'm sure the same is true for Bruce Willis right now, but the brain is just not working right any longer. So it's really, really hard.
When the machinery that makes the car run starts breaking down, the rest of the body breaks with it. Kind of
exactly. Exactly.
In relation to how you end up finding that internal strength, I mean, I can imagine that at many times it can be very isolating. And, you were mentioning about reaching out. When people hear of people with major conditions, you always kind of hear the concept of they're isolated and they don't hear from the people that they do anymore. Did you find that happening in your life as well when you were going through it? Is that something that in relation to forcing into somebody's house to say, hey, no, I'm still here? Is that kind of where that arose for you as well?
Yeah. I had some really, really good friends and some friends who disappointed me, just to be completely honest and completely frank. But I absolutely understand where everyone's coming from, because it is uncomfortable and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. But, as a caregiver, and when you're right in the middle of it too, you know that you have to do what you have to do. Whether, there are a lot of people that, have kids at home because their spouse has been diagnosed, really young. Others may still be needing to work full time. The spouse may have been able to go on disability or be eligible for Medicaid or Medicare, but they're still needing to work. So, you just have to do the best you can. Take advantage of friends, family. If you have a faith community, reach out, ask for help when you need it. Even if you don't know what that help looks like, just let people know. Reach out, look for support groups, whether they're in person or virtual. Uh, you know, there are not as many of us as there need to be, but we are here for you and would love to be able to help and just give you a little bit of support whenever we can.
I, and there are, I mean, just beyond even what you guys are doing, there are other support groups within the local community as well in almost most areas of the U.S. I mean, worldwide, I don't know, how that
Yeah,
works,
the
but
for frontotemporal dementia in particular, the AFTD's website is theaftd.org.
okay.
You can go there, find information on support groups in your state, virtual support groups. If you have a family member who's very aware and is wanting to participate in support groups for themselves, there are support groups available for those living with FTD. It's not something, some people live with it for many, many years and are still fully functioning members of society. So take advantage of the resources. It may make you uncomfortable at first, but just remind yourself that everyone who is part of the community is there for the same reasons as you are. They need the support, or they are in a position where they're able to provide the support. Whenever I was living through it, I really didn't participate in the support group. My bandwidth was maximized, and I did have a really good, strong family support system with my mother and my husband, and that really helped a lot. And so I didn't need that outside support. But now that I'm a bit removed, I am able to give support to others, and I do it mainly to make sure they know they're not alone and that they do feel like they have someone, because we're all, not everyone is as fortunate as I was in my situation. As awful as it was, I was very, very blessed in a lot of ways.
You had a the whole concept of it takes a whole community to raise a child. It takes a whole community to deal with a situation like this as well. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're kind of isolated. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and and I have a good friend who is an elder care attorney, and he came to a support group meeting a year or two ago, and he really, even doing what he does every day, didn't understand the magnitude until he was sitting there really listening to everyone talk. And a lot of times, I think when you're living through it, just because of your own, I guess maybe survival instincts kick in, you just cope and you adapt and you do what you've got to do to get through it. Uh, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not going to be the future that you hoped for, unfortunately, but you will get through it and you'll be stronger because of it, and you'll be in a position where you're able to help others.
The adage of life happens when you're making plans seems to be more appropriate the older I get. So
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, I think we're all, as we age, we're all going to be facing these challenges, and you never know uh, how quickly you can be put in this situation. Luckily for my family, Dad's progression was really relatively slow, and even after diagnosis, he was able to continue to do a lot of things that he would have been doing otherwise. Did some traveling, did some projects around the house, went dancing every week and really did that well. He even got to the point where he really didn't remember all of the steps, and he was a dance teacher of all different kinds of ballroom dances
Wow.
to work his way through college in the late 1960s. So he knew all the dances. But as time went on, he didn't know as many dances as he once did. But he and my mom had really developed a great relationship with several different communities that get together to dance at different senior centers in our area. And, those community members were some of their best friends, especially the last few years.
Impressive. Like all over the board. So, and actually that kind of leads into one of the things that I was going to say is, so now that you are a couple of years removed, and I know I'm going through this in relation to the passing of my father, who passed around the same time as yours did. Do you find yourself, now that you are removed from the trials and tribulations of it, focusing on, even during the rough times, those positive moments, the things that bring us love, that warmth?
Yeah. For sure. And even in the worst of times, Dad still kind of maintained his sense of humor, even though he wasn't able to speak. He'd get this glint in his eyes and a big grin on his face, and so we knew that he was still there and was totally getting it. But yeah, I think especially in a situation like this, and where really it was probably Dad passed away in 2021. And it was probably, a good, really like 10 years before that, 2011, so 3 or 4 years after his diagnosis, where we were really able to have like really, really in-depth heart-to-heart conversations. So that was kind of the new normal. And so for the longest time, it was really hard emotionally to even think about, those kinds of conversations, and what a source of strength he had been for me for so long, because he wasn't that anymore. And so the further removed from his passing, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of people, whether their parent, has dementia or cancer or anything that kind of causes them to be weaker or not as strong, or not someone you've been able to rely on or have the same kind of relationship that you've always had. It's really hard when you're in the middle of it to try to remember how things were when things were really good. But the further away you get, the more joy you can find from those memories. And, you get back to the place where you wish you had been able to always stay, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I kind of think of it like panning gold. You get all the grit in there and you're panning it, and eventually what comes out is the heavy stuff, the stuff that you hold on to. And sometimes it may be good and sometimes it may be bad, but it's always those memories that you hold on to are the heavy grit. Everything else you just kind of let go. One of the things that in grieving that I've experienced is the dealing with the concept of remembering the times of degeneration, as the body breaks down, and then thinking about that. But then as time goes by, I think less of that. I think more of the good times that occurred, or the different memories that arose out of all of that.
Yeah, and everybody's process is going to be different. I have a support group member whose wife passed away right around the start of this year. And he continues to come to support group pretty regularly because he really feels like it's important for him to to provide support, and not just in the support group itself, but he's meeting more and more people, probably because he is a bit removed now, and he's able to talk about it more. Where he's really able to help them too, and their loved one may not have frontotemporal dementia, but may be struggling with Alzheimer's or any sort of terminal diagnosis, and he's really found a sense of purpose being able to help those people.
I am surprised actually when I asked about positive options that or the things that bring memories. I was actually leaving you a nice opening for Auburn, putting a pitch out there for Auburn baseball and football, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he was very involved in the Auburn side of things as well. So
yeah, he and my mom, and really it started with my granddaddy, who I don't even know that he finished past middle school. He was born in a log cabin, but he was a big proponent of his children going to college. And my dad was one of 12, but my granddaddy was a nursery owner, so he was very big into horticulture. And knew quite a few other professors at Auburn. So my dad and a couple of my uncles ended up at Auburn, and my mom followed my dad there because they were high school sweethearts. And I ended up going there myself. And mom and I actually are season baseball ticket holders. I have a job where I work remotely, so I can kind of work from anywhere, and we are able to go up, a few weekends a year. I take time off, or I, work remotely for the day before the series, and we are actually headed up this weekend because Auburn has had one of the best seasons ever, and I know Dad's somewhere out there really enjoying it and has absolutely loved the basketball team as well. Football, not so much right now, but we'll get back there eventually.
Comes around, goes around. As a fellow Auburn grad, I'm right there with you. So, in relation, and that was one of those events that you were involved with when your dad was less communicative, was actually watching the games and sitting with him while doing that as well, correct?
Yeah. He still very much wanted to watch when they were on TV, and really, I want to say the last basketball game we went to was probably in 2018. He was having a hard time by that point really getting around, and we actually went to a women's basketball game because he said that they needed the support. So he was able to communicate that to us. But yeah, it's one of those things where and you do find things, and that was something that was always important to my family, and we always enjoyed watching Auburn sports in particular together. But do try to find joy in those things, and it may not be the quote unquote normal thing that everyone feels like you should be doing, but if your loved one loves doing jigsaw puzzles, or they love watching certain TV shows, find joy in that. Appreciate them for where they are at this point in time. We unfortunately won't can't go back, can't change things, but find joy where you can, and just hang in there. You'll get through it and get to the other side eventually.
Create the memories with what options you have.
Exactly.
You going back to the life chooses to happen to you, no matter what plans you make. In many ways, making the memories out of what options are available is as important in that whole concept.
For sure.
Yeah. Probably one final question I have for you is there anything you learned about yourself or about the life that you're living or that you should be living from the experience?
Well, something, and I am doing better at it, but I think we all are pretty much all of us. I shouldn't say everyone, because I do have some wonderful friends who really do a great job of taking care of themselves. But I do need to do an even better job taking care of myself than what I'm doing now. Really making sure that I exercise so my body will hold up for as long as it can. Eat right, do the memory exercises, all of those things. And some days I'm better at it than others, but just we all have a limited time here, and do what we love. Uh, don't don't be held back by things that don't bring you joy. I mean, you really, things like this, I think, uh, cause me not to really sweat the small stuff. I know that's such a cliche, but it's true. I mean, it's not worth the time or energy, to focus on situations or even people who aren't serving you, and I guess providing something positive in your life.
Not to get too financial about it, but invest in the things that enrich your life,
Exactly.
not the things that draw away from it.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good ending. I want to leave you an opportunity. Is there anything final that maybe I didn't touch on, or anything that you would like to add that you think would be?
No, and I just appreciate that you are doing this. I think it's amazing. It's wonderful, and maybe we can have more chats like this in the future about other things. So I'd
Always
love to
willing.
help. All right.
Always willing. I highly appreciate it, and thank you very much, Amber. I appreciate it
You're
much.
welcome. Take care.
All right.